Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm going to share with you this little setup that's kind of generating this procedural well. Um, so this is the final result. Um, this is the one that's actually Sverchok is generating. It's basically like a simple, looks like boxes, but it's being arranged into something that looks like a well. And this is actually a single object. And then this is the result after I add a little bit of modifier like bevel, displacement, subsurf, and then another displacement just to add a little bit more of details. You can also add like a displacement during the render time, and that will add a lot of details. So this is good for close up well. If I go inside, I will delete this guy and then I'll save it as new file. If we take a look at the setup, let me reduce the number of well first of all. We have 69 level of well. We can make it just 15 for example. Well, actually, this guy is the seed. So we have 38. I'll reduce it to 12 or even less. So now we have a very short well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have a couple of parameters that we can play around here for this well. I'll tell you how I set this up from the beginning. This is actually based on the ring, the new ring nodes in Sverchok. So I was thinking about the ring, right? The ring movie. There's this Japanese horror movie called The Ring, and I was thinking, okay, the ring kind of has connotation with this the well. So I decided, okay, maybe I can make procedural well based on this ring node. So that's exactly what I did here. So yeah, I started with a ring, and as you know, the ring actually generates. I'll actually like draw it, and using white color, so it's clear. So I'll delete this and start again. We know the ring generates like a flat kind of donuts, and it has I can make it so it generates a single face like this, and then for each face I can actually kind of delete every other face, and with whatever left, what we get is like a kind of like a brick, like a single level of the brick that we can use to generate this well. So that's basically the whole procedure there. It's really simple, and what I did next is just add a little bit of randomizations and then kind of rotate it slightly in the random fashion for each level. It can be made more robust if you actually use you start with a circle and you kind of cut the circle randomly to generate each and every brick. That's actually, you might get like a better result, and then for each circle you can actually randomize the number of the brick. But even with this, it looks pretty good, and I guess this is worth trying. So it's good practice. Okay, so I have a ring node, and you can see I have control over the exterior and the interior of the brick. So that's no big deal. And the next thing I did was there's this extra randomization, but I can get rid of it, and now it's kind of more or less the same size, just like a square brick. And I have this list mask. This is the one that's more important, and I have solidify. So with this list masking, I'm kind of getting rid every every other brick. So like I said, from the ring, I get rid of every other face. I'll actually use a viewer draw here to show you what's going on. So look at the blue thing. This is the original ring. In the next step, because of the list masking, I'm getting rid every other brick. So I have this guy, right? So that's simple enough. And on the next one, I'm actually separating each and every brick. I'm separating it into its own object. And here I have bounding box and the scaling, and I have a mesh join. Here what happened next is I have some kind of control for the bricks, so I can kind of scale the bricks separately. So if I get rid of this guy, see I have this control because I'm separating each and every brick, and I'm using the bounding box as the center pivot for scaling. I can do this pretty easily. So now we have the bricks that's kind of closer with each other. Originally it looks like this, right? The gap is kind of too big for the brick. So I'm using the scaling and kind of doing that. It's very, very simple, really. You can actually do the same thing if you use a circle, perhaps, but I want to take advantage of this ring. You can actually, in fact, if you want, you can kind of make a variations of the bricks for each level. So that way you have more variations. And let's see what's happened next. Mesh join, etc., etc. I get this matrix apply, vector rewire, line. Okay, this part probably looks a bit tricky, but it's actually kind of simple. I keep adding stuff on top of it, so that's why. But basically, I have this single ring that's kind of looks like a brick being arranged. What's happened next is really I'm using the matrix and making duplicates. We have line here. This is the important node in this case. The line generates duplicates of this object that keeps going up, and there's a vector rewire because by default line goes in the x direction, so I use vector rewire, so the line now goes up, so that's not a big deal. And we have this matrix in, and the matrix in also responsible for the instancing, and the rest of them like vector noise and scale, whatever, that's kind of just to add some kind of randomizations. But in reality, the result looks something like this. And I believe I use list repeater for the polygon. There you go. That's before I add any kind of vector noise and to make it a little bit more random. We don't actually need to do this, but I add it anyway. So maybe not too much, not like that. Maybe I can actually randomize it, not in all directions, otherwise kind of a little bit funny. Maybe I should actually vector out here and kind of get rid of the Z randomization, just in the X and Y. Yeah, something like that, you know. Maybe, but it's totally up to you. This is just an extra stuff, and I'm joining all the bricks together instead of separate. I'm joining into a single object and become a single object for the well. So yeah, what's happening here with the line, I'm using the rewire, it goes up, and this one control how many levels it has. You can have like a brick, like a well that's really tall, if you like. And this one's controlling the rotations. Just randomize the rotations. Actually, these two responsible for the rotations. You can also scale it slightly if you like. If I'm using like range float for the scale, vector in 1, 2, 3. Okay, we get that. How many count? 33 the count, and we can start from nothing. Maybe we start with like really big size and then get smaller and smaller, but we don't want to scale it in all directions, so we, for the Z it's just 1. Yeah, that's looking a little bit strange, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you can even use this to make like a pyramid. I don't know, I didn't, this is like, not intentionally, it's just like if you keep playing around with this, you can get some kind of other structure that's I don't know, it's kind of accidental. Maybe if I make like range or random number here, make a random number of integer between maybe between 20 and 60. Now the procedural well is become something else, something completely different. Yeah, it looks a bit weird now, actually. Probably not what you really want, but yeah, the procedural well is how it's got started. It's let's go back from what we to what we have. Oh yeah, it's just decided to crash on itself. It's okay. It's as long as you save it, you don't need to worry if it's crashing. Let's restart it real quick. So yeah, that's pretty much it actually with a procedural well. It's rather like the whole recipe is pretty simple, especially for this procedural well. But the more you keep adding layers on top of the parameters, the more you start to get like variations that you might didn't think of earlier. So that's actually that's the power of procedural workflow. Let me check real quick. I think, yeah, I was gonna do a little bit of randomization here. So with the radial section, oh, by the way, with the radial section, you need to at least have like 6 or something. But I think that's a good. There's a good number here, like 34, 36, 38. So that's kind of good number. Random number generator. Size float 30, somewhere between 30 and 46. Maybe it's a good value. Just plug that into the radial section. Maybe that's too high. Oh, there must be something going on here that's okay, the number is not enough. How many level do we have here? 38. 38. Maybe we should put in 38 then. Maybe that's the wrong number. 38, separate loose parts. So that's probably not how we want to randomize this guy. Let's try a smaller value. 4, 1. Okay, that's not how we supposed to do it. But anyway, this is how you might want to generate like a well. So at any time you can always bake this and it's become a single object. And once you have this, it's totally up to you what you want to do with it. You can displace it more, and give it like a displacement, maybe Musgrave, and maybe play with the value, just adding slight more randomizations. If you smooth it, you get this kind of like a ball looking result that you might want or you might not want, but this is just another type of well made of stones, so that might actually work as well if you want this, but it's probably a good idea to add a bevel just in between, just before this subdivision. You want to add a bevel, so up here, so you get a something that's a little bit hard edge. Ah, okay. Segment 1 or 2, okay, profile 0.5. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like a 70 or 75% kind of complete in this case. If you want to make more randomization per level of the ring, you can do that. I think I need to make like slight modification here so that each of the rings per level can be a different value, but otherwise the setup is already working, and I'll give you this setup anyway for you to try and modify. And the thing about this guy is you can also, let's say we have this kind of well and you want to make a bunch more, you can always add a matrix in here and perhaps use like a plain grid or just use a line and just add a couple more. So you can have this bricks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can randomize it here. Random. If I'm doing everything correctly, I can actually randomize this. But maybe I shouldn't actually do that, because in order to vectorize this guy, you need to perhaps turn everything into a monad. So that's actually a good idea as well. If you spend a little bit more time and turn everything into like a group nodes, you can easily vectorize this guy. So you can have multiple wells with different height, with different level. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. You can always randomize the seed to get a different looking well. Maybe at some point I'll make a video how you can bake like a multiple variations of this well. See, you can actually do this manually. Let's say you have this one and you're pretty happy with this, you can bake it and you have one. And then you just make a different one and you randomize the seed, and you can also bake it from here, Sverchok, and there's this B button, bake. Okay, and then there are more randomizations and then bake it again. And you already have 1, 2, 3 different variations of the brick, and then you can instance this using particles or whatever, because once you have like 20 variations, or let's say 64 is a good number, 64 variations of an object is really good enough. You can use it for anything like chair or things like that. But anyway, this is just a well, and you look at this and think, okay, this has different variation enough, and you will think, okay, this person must have spent some time to generate this, so it's looking pretty good and it's looking pretty believable, even though maybe you want to add more detail using cycle texture or something. Maybe making sure that each of the bricks has different color. That's also something you can do. But yeah, but anyway, this is something you can keep adding until you have like a really believable looking well. So anyway, enough talk. I think this is pretty much it for this live noding. If you have any question, feedbacks, or just let me know. And thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.